Welcome to PARAMERICAN Radio. Chad Calek here, as always, with my my good friend, my compadre, my partner in crime, my much smaller best friend.
You love that, don't you? Just love it.
That's the funniest fucking intro I've ever done. My much smaller best friend. Justin Holstein, what's been going on, Justin? I know both of us have actually been in Productionville. In between getting the studio together, I've been also working on a new show called Ghosted that I can't really give details about other than to say I guess I'm doing TV again, which is exciting. And you've been in this world, right?
Yeah.
Anything new and exciting while I've been running back and forth, hanging out with Steve much?
The new and exciting thing today, losing $1 million was fairly significant.
Oh, that's right. You want to tell the story really quick?
Yeah. God, I was really sure about this, man.
Honey dick me with information.
So
thanks, Brandon Shaw, for the honey dick steal right there. That I just stole his quote.
Chad and I get in these arguments off and on about different stuff, and it's always like a battle of will of who's right.
Yeah.
And I was pretty sure about this. We were arguing basically whether or not the Democrats during Obama's first term controlled both the House and the Senate.
Well, how it started is I just said Obama didn't get it done in his first quarter, and his first term he should have, because he owned both houses. In which Justin has this just fucking condescending way to talk to you when he thinks he's right. And he's just like literally talking to me like I am the biggest idiot on planet Earth. And I'm going, no, man, he controlled the House and the Senate. No, he didn't.
Okay.
You know that?
Now you're flipping it around like you're completely innocent the whole time. I was just saying. You talk just as condescending.
Okay.
That's why I start snapping saying, how much you want to bet, Chad? How much you want to bet? You go, I'll bet $1 million.
Well, because Dad, no, you started going, how much you want to bet? Like, come on, Dad, known for fucking 30 years. Like, we're really going to exchange cash, That's why I said, $1 million, Justin. Why not? So I'm literally Googling this, and every site I'm hitting is going, yes, the Democrats control the House and the Senate. Yes. Just like, where are you finding this? I'm like, the internet wide, like everywhere. You got to send it to me. Okay, so I send it to him. Guarantee it didn't happen. Bottom line is, whatever you're looking at's wrong. I'm like, okay, so I get off the phone. I'm just sending him shit, knowing that he's dead wrong, And how'd it turn out for you, Justin?
I was presenting an alternate set of facts, is the only thing.
You were presenting an alternate set of facts, but I will forgive you, Justin. You don't owe me $1 million. The swell of pride I felt knowing that you were ridiculously wrong could not be topped by any monetary value. So, having said that, on this episode or this podcast, I am freaking super excited. When we thought of doing this, I literally thought of our guest that I'm about to announce right now. Just because this guy runs deep with me. He's been through the thick of it all, and we go way back, and he's had a fascinating run in Hollywood and the entertainment business, and he's just a guy that's always kind of been there for me as a friend and as somebody in the business in general. His name is Mr. Corey Moss. He is here with us right now. Corey is, I guess the broad-based term, Corey, would be what? Producer. You're a Hollywood producer. Is that accurate to say that? You're a Hollywood producer. That's directed as well?
Yeah, I usually say I'm a producer who works primarily in the digital space since I've been doing that for, probably the last 10 years or so.
Well, see, I know what this means because I live out here, okay? And when you use terms like the millennial audience, the digital space, like, what is that? Well, what does that mean, the digital space? Like, what does that mean to somebody who says, what is a digital space? Isn't everything digital? Like, what's the digital space?
Yeah, it's, it's obviously, we're kind of getting to a crossroads where digital and television are sort of merging,
yeah.
Where people are watching what we all think of as TV on technically a digital platform or digital delivery. People still sort of separate them in the businesses. Now they call TV linear versus digital. But, I think the best way to sort of think about it in the context of what I do is like, I started my career out here working at MTV News and spent 7 years doing that. And the latter couple years, MTV launched a video platform that was pre-YouTube, very ahead of its time. And wisely, MTV went to the folks at MTV News because we did short form, we did low budget, and to develop some of those first shows. And so I did some of the first shows for that. I did a show that was called MTV Raw, and it was sort of an interview series, but from a very raw perspective. The first episode we did was with Trent Reznor. And so, I went from doing that at MTV for my latter couple years there to going to Yahoo, where, our paths crossed again to, I launched a digital video business at a management company here and produced about 35 different series for, everyone in the space. And then I've been at a big company for the last few years doing similar type of stuff. But, to answer your question, it's really just, producing short form and long form content for digital platforms.
And what's cool is you and I have both saw this coming, and in our own unique ways, we both went there.
I give you a ton of credit because I think you were the first person that I knew that realized that you sort of cut out the middleman and sort of realized that with all of this technology, you can be, a direct link to your audience. I mean, in a way, you were a YouTuber before YouTube.
Yeah, what I was waiting for is America to not care where they got their content. Mm-hmm. And I knew it was slowly happening. Every 3-4 months, people cared less. And then I think it really blew up with the expansion of Netflix, Hulu, Amazon. Mm-hmm. Once they went to multiple different places, no one cared. Yeah. They just wanted to know where to get it. But let's go back.
I think just to add to that real quick, is I think we're at a really interesting point in content right now where I think we truly are in a place where people do not even really pay attention to the platform it's on.
They don't.
When I was at Yahoo, it was all about driving people to yahoo.com to view the videos. Now they get a lot of their video play on Facebook, and there's whole companies, including ours, that are built around the idea that you're just sort of making content for all of these different platforms, and people will watch it where they watch it, whether that's Facebook or YouTube or whatever.
It used to be, here's my website, come to me. Exactly. Now it's like, I'm going everywhere. You know what I mean? And that's such a smart move. And we talked early about trying to accomplish that.
The hardest part of that to me is just the social media aspect. You got to stay on that so much. And then that's where you were always good at, because you would put your life, every dark corner of everything, your dog, your wife, your everything of every moment constantly, right? And
although my dog and my wife are not dark corners.
I was going to say, what are you calling this wife a dark corner?
I just mean, my wife's fucking beautiful, my dog is sick, all right?
But I just mean generally, those are like, your personal aspects of your life.
I feel you. I feel you. I feel you. I want to do this though. I want to slow up a little bit because there's some history here that I want to get into.
20 years, I was thinking today.
20 years.
It's probably maybe 21 or so. I think I was probably 18 or 19 when we met.
When I first met Corey, now you have to understand that it's your friendship and mine has always been one that I don't know that everybody understood in the beginning. I don't know that they would even understand it now. But I've always been one of those opposites attract. Like, I don't want to hang out with me. You understand? You know what I mean? So I'm always fascinated by people that are different. Like Justin, look how small he is. Like
people, I'm going to stand up. We're going to have a measuring thing behind us. We're going to see how tall I am.
Oh, my point being, when Corey met me, I was this just ice house drinking. I was a heavy metal kid, all black wearing, partying constant. I don't even drink now, which is so funny because I was a heavy drinker in college. And I was a very, for those of you that have heard the personal podcast about my my backstory, I was just a very outlandish dude that liked making people uncomfortable. I liked stirring shit up. And, Corey walked into the Daily one day and he was just like, he was so fucking preppy. He had his hair colored and it changed every damn month, man. I remember one time you went goth and you burnt the shit out of your scalp.
And then I did go black.
But do you remember the time you burnt the living shit he walks in, I'm like talking to him, and he's talking to me, and I'm trying not to address the elephant in the room, which is that Moss has flesh bubbling on his fucking forehead from burning the shit out of himself. I'm like, dude, what happened to your head? Can I just ask you what happened to your head? He's like, yeah, I just left it on too long and all this stuff. It's really funny, man. But he was just, he came from a different walk of life. He was clearly what I viewed as a preppy kid. You were a suburban kid to me, you know? He was like I used to laugh and say he was DJ Jazzy Trevor, you know what I mean? He was like the dude from the suburbs that loved the hip hop. And to top it all off, like his calling card of what he loved and was so dope about him was Vanilla Ice. I mean, he loved Vanilla Ice, dude.
That was accidental.
But, listen, what I saw in Corey was versus everybody else that was there. Corey had his own DJ business. His little brother was in a band, a local band. And at the time, I was in a band called 35-Inch Mutter. And Corey knew me very early on in that project. Now, for those of you listening, that name probably doesn't mean anything. But there was a time where, in the Midwest at least, as far as unsigned bands go, we were the biggest thing anybody had ever seen. And that's how I actually wound up in Los Angeles. But Corey, what I knew is that he was aggressive. He wanted to make things happen. He was involved in a lot of different stuff on campus. And I always want to tell the story because I don't even know if Corey to this day knows that he played a vital part in one of the most magic moments between my wife and I. When I decided that I was going to be in a band, Laura and I had a long talk about this, obviously, because I don't think a lot of girls love the idea of their guy going, I'm just going to be in a band forever. I'm going to dump everything in my life in this, and I'm quitting college and everything else. And so Laura was just kind of like, well, I do believe in you, but like, you're a journalist, you're good at this, like things are going well. And they were going great. And I'm like, Laura, I know my path, you know what I mean? And I'm not supposed to write about other people. I'm supposed to make the stories other people write about, And we were talking about the band, and we went for a drive, and we were going out to dinner, and it was quiet, and we were driving by the Hilton Coliseum. And I looked over, and I said, hey. And she looked at me, and I was like, if my band could play that within a year from now, would you feel comfortable doing this? And it was just something, I was totally bullshitting, but there was something magic about why I said it. I just figured if that could be accomplished in a year, then she would have confidence, you know what I mean? And she looked at me and she was like, it's the Hilton Coliseum, Chad. She goes, I'd be happy with Uncle Frogs or what it was at that time. She goes, I'd be happy with Uncle Frogs. And we kind of laughed. And I said to her, within a year, I'm going to play this. And she's like, okay. Well, as a turn of events would happen, things took off for our band, and a big part of that was Corey. He was banging the local newspapers, getting story after story after story written about 35-Inch Mutter, and everybody was hearing about this band, and we got on the radio, and pretty soon we're opening up for Deftones and Limp Bizkit, and all this stuff's going crazy. And then I hear about this show. The show is going to be put on at Iowa State University, in which there's going to be a massive concert at the Hilton Coliseum, and there's discussions that a local band may actually play that show. And guess who I found out was the guy booking the show? Corey Moss. Now, I was just like, he's going to put us in there, or I'm going to kill this kid. This is the one shot I have to get in there. And he was already on the same page. But when it came down to it, you had to fight pretty hard for that, correctly? Yeah. They tried to stop it, right? Yeah. Yeah. So how did you get in that position? What was that? Was it a committee or something?
It was the Iowa State, where we all went to school, had a big spring festival every year that they, I think, had canceled now. Visha, it was called, because it was such a big party, and a lot of there was some bad incidences and things. But and they had every year done some different things with live music and different concerts and things like that. And we're trying to make it always bigger than it was the year before. And I had been on that Visha committee for a couple of years, I think, when that had come, and it was like, well, how do we do it bigger? Well, let's do it at Hilton, the biggest venue we have. Right. And the second we went to go to Hilton, they said, well, you can do it here, but you're not going to be in charge of it. And we were like, well, that's not really the point of Visha. Yeah. And so from day one, it was sort of this battle between the owner. Iowa State technically owned Hilton, but it was managed by a professional company. So it was the sort of management of Hilton versus the students. And so from day one, it was a little bit subject, and they kept trying to book it, and I kept saying, we don't want that, we don't want that, we don't want that. And I, ended up booking like a crazy freaking
Yeah, it was
lineup,
like Flaming Lips,
Crystal
Tonic,
Method.
Crystal Method.
Let's just say we didn't
right.
get a lot of EDM in Ames, Iowa. You know, and to me, from day one, it was always really important to have a local band on it, and they fought me on that. So they it was one of those deals where it was like fought on every element.
The thing was, it was for like a week. It looked like we had it, and then I would hear maybe not, you know. And
I think I would just mess with you and be like, I think it's going to be the Nadas.
You do, which I was just like, fuck the Nada, you know. The Nadas was this like band that I love the guys, but there was like it was everything I stood against in music. I mean, it was folk music and country type of stuff, and I was just like, and my band 35 Inch Mutter was like hardcore rap metal, you know, just kill your neighbor shit, you know, like. So that was the thing too. I was thinking, how is Corey going to get Mutter into this, because the type of music and I had a really emboldened reputation from the newspaper of starting trouble and all this stuff. But I think the thing is, the story at that time was so big around Mutter, it was hard to push back on it. But finally, he gets it done. And I'm just like, holy shit! Like we did this. Like and that was a big thing. Where I kind of looked at Corey at that time like, he's like me. Like his goals are way up here. Like we did this because he can conceive we can do this. You know what I mean? And before that show started, my parents came out for that show. The only show my dad ever came to see me play. And I could see on his face, I mean, he was like, this is something else. You know, he was impressed. And right before the show started, I turned around and the lights went out. And there was this rumble of the crowd. And I felt it in my chest. And I just looked at Laura and she smiled. And I walked up and she just said, I know, you did it. And it was just a special like moment, you know, that meant more than the show, meant more than anything else. It was just like, this happened. Like that moment made me believe in so much. That so much was possible. Just fucking try, you know? It was possible. So that was a moment that was a huge moment for our friendship, for kind of everything we can do. And, you know, beyond that, we continued to work on stuff together in Iowa, basically. But this next story is that I'm going to have Corey tell is the reason, one of the primary reasons I wanted to have a podcast, because it's the single greatest, I think, Hollywood story to this day that I've ever had. You guys ever out there, audience, have you ever like watched a David Lynch movie, like Mulholland Drive or something like that, or or a Tarantino film, and you kind of think, this stuff is so entertaining, it's awesome, but this isn't real life. Like no real world is actually like this, right? That's what makes it great filmmaking. I beg to differ. My first film, or Justin, our first film, The Private Public that we made, I got Corey involved to do publicity and to just kind of do a press tour for it. And he killed it. I mean, he did a great job. We did all kinds of press. But when we first came out to Los Angeles, we were also trying to stir up press and get people involved in stuff. And I invited Corey to come with. And I said, let's go out to LA. I figured if anything, it'd be a great trip. We both hadn't been there yet. Just a lot of fun. And the director of our first film, The Private Public, was a gentleman named Dana Altman, who lives in Omaha, Nebraska. Dana Altman, the reason how he came to direct our film is he sold us on the fact that he was Robert Altman's grandson, the legendary director Robert Altman, the guy that, he made the independent film game. I mean, this guy is just responsible, for teaching artists that you can do it on your own without, major studios controlling everything. So I'm stoked. I'm like, oh my God, this is Robert Altman's grandson that's directing our film. This is going to be huge. And at this point, Dana the whole time is just really bigging this up and selling it to us. And, I've done my homework, and sure enough, Dana's worked on Cookie's Fortune. He's worked on Popeye, The Player, everything. So when we're out here, I'm like asking Dana the whole time if we're going to go see like Robert. And he's saying yes, but he's kind of cautiously saying it. So I didn't think I even talked to Corey about that plan. I might have even said there's something weird about this or something. But
Corey came out too because you were doing publicity. Right?
Yeah. So we find out we're going to Robert's house. Okay, so we're going to go to Robert Altman's house. What I didn't know at that time, walking into this, is that Dana had, I don't know the details about it, but he had some massive falling out with the family, to the point where like Robert is like disowning him. You know what I mean? We don't know this, and we're like walking into this scenario. So I'm going to let Corey just kind of set up how this event began and what happened from the moment we walk in the door. Take it from here, Corey.
I think Dana's nervousness led to us getting there like an hour early, right? And he lives in a beautiful beachfront home in Malibu, and we're super early.
All white.
Yeah. So we decided to just go on a stroll along the beach. We kind of have to walk through some woods and stuff to get there, but we're just killing time until it's finally time to go to his house at the invited time. And so we finally get to the house, and we walk in, and it's just like Chad said, gorgeous house, everything very white, pristine, and we're all sort of a little bit nervous, and we just sort of meet some of the other family, walk all the way through the house to the very back of the house to the patio, which is where the waves crash in, and just gorgeous. And we're sort of waiting out there for Robert to come down because he hasn't went out. And after maybe, I don't know, it seemed like a few hours, probably 20 minutes, but
It seemed like a long time.
yeah. He finally comes down. He's wearing a red silk robe, and it's just like the waves parted as he walked down the stairs.
Slowly, you could see he had these stairs where you could see the back. They were like this. The wood things come down. You could see the stairs, and just one step.
You were saying people call him Papa Bear?
Next step, yeah.
And because there were grandkids running around, all that kind of stuff. And he walks from the staircase immediately out to greet Dana and I and Chad and whoever else, and looks down.
Well, let me say this, by the way, too. Corey, when we get there, they offer him a beer. They offer you alcohol, basically, if you want to drink. You know what I mean? And I didn't really, at that time, I just kind of started my not drinking time period, in which Corey decides he's going to have some alcohol. Okay? No big deal. Finish telling your story.
So, and so he comes out, and right as he's about to say hi, he looks down at his pristine white carpet, and he noticed that there are muddy footprints around his entire house, and says something to the effect of "what the fuck?" Yeah. And I said, "Oh God, please no!" And I looked down, and sure enough, from our little stroll on the beach through the woods to the beach, I have just a cake of layer of mud on the bottom of my shoes. So me, who is not even like the producer on the film, like the publicist for his grandson's tiny little Omaha-based movie, has gone to his house and tracked mud around his Malibu mansion.
Trashed it. There's fucking mud. I didn't even notice it until he said it. But what's so funny is Corey's forgetting a part. He's basically saying, "Who did this? Where'd this come from? Where'd this mud come from?" And all this. And I look down, I'm like, "It's not my shoes. It's not my shoes." And it's quiet. I'm looking around. And I look at Corey, and he, out of the side of his mouth, he goes, "It's totally fucking me." It's totally fucking me. And I look over, and yeah, there's fucking mud everywhere. And there's this bowl of like cashews or something. And I can see Corey kind of like trying to slide his feet under the cashews. God. So he's sitting there with his feet kind of under the cashews. And Robert, is still going around the house, making everybody uncomfortable, going, "Where the fuck's this mud coming from? There's tons of it." So he walks in the room, and Corey doesn't know. You have nowhere to go. There's nowhere to go. But
I almost jumped off the balcony. I was in my mind.
That's what you told me. You said, "Dude, I was so close to just saying fuck it."
So
hold on. So Robert comes back, and he hasn't said yet, "These are my muddy shoes." We just kind of know, fuck, he's going to see it. So Corey's got his shoes kind of under this bowl that are on this glass, and there's the cashews there. So Robert can't really see whose shoes it is yet. Robert sits down. We had been just picking a peanut or two out of it. Robert sits down, grabs the bowl of cashews, and leans back with it. There's Corey's shoes. And Robert's going... That's the point. Corey, from that moment, dude, just started pounding liquor, dude, just pounding, going there. And I didn't realize how much liquor he's drinking at the time, because what happened shortly after this obviously puts Robert in a bad fucking mood, and he decides it's time to start fighting with Dana over family shit.
So what was the maid just continually coming and bringing beers every time?
The maid was basically his wife.
His wife.
Yeah.
Not the maid.
Yeah, she was basically just and Robert is passed away now, rest in peace. But it was, so yeah, they're waiting on him, and he's getting into this massive family fight between Dan about shit, you know what I mean? That's, every family has deep-rooted secrets, and it's who did this, who did blow, who fucked who cheated on who.
They were talking about that?
Oh, God, yeah. Robert was just going the fuck off. Like, and Dana was fighting him about who left when they shouldn't have, and who cheated on who, and it was just all kinds of family stuff that we shouldn't have been privy to. And we're standing outside, and I just go, Jesus Christ, Corey, I've never wanted to get out of this fucking place so bad. And I look over, and he's like, yeah, totally, dude. And I could tell him, he's fucking hammered. I look over, and I'm like, dude, are you drunk? And he's like, totally. Just like, holy shit. So if you remember, dude, we still had to have dinner. So she made this dinner. So in the midst of this argument, they kind of like break for dinner.
And it was like spaghetti with red pasta. I'm like, was the most careful I've ever eaten spaghetti in my life. It was like one noodle at a time. I'm like, if I drip one sauce of this red sauce on the floor, I am gonna kill myself.
Oh, dude, it was so fucking funny.
It went on for that long.
Yes, so we sat through at dinner, and it's now super uncomfortable the whole time. And if you remember, Robert wanted ice cream when it was over. Remember the Dove ice cream? It had to be like the Dove ice cream. And they kind of set out ice creams, and nobody's eating them because we're afraid to eat them before he eats his. So he kind of like has this Dove ice cream, and he eats it. And I remember the Dove wrapping. I just remember this all because it was like a David Lynch movie. The Dove wrapping falls on the ground, and the wife is like running right over to get it really fast and make sure it's all good. And after that's over, Dana got on a phone call. I think it was with his wife, and he went outside. And we finally had a few minutes with Robert in which he was just like, so tell me about yourself. And we're just like, oh, yeah, well, we're trying to like make movies or whatever. And I asked him, I said, well, do you have any advice that you can give me as a young filmmaker? Because I figured, fuck, I'm in the midst of this thing. Maybe I can get a gym on the way out the door. I don't know.
He says, don't track mud around people's houses.
He said, don't roll into a stranger's house with your fucking feet looking like that. No, but what he said to me, he said, my advice to you is to always be making films. So filmmakers make films. If you're talking about it, you're not a real filmmaker. And it's weird because today that's a standing good piece of advice. And it's amazing in the midst of this madness, that fucking Jim came out of his mouth because I was waiting for him to say something like that. How about this? Don't come in someone's house and fucking tear it apart and get wasted, you jackass. Yeah, it was pretty crazy. It was a crazy experience. But it was. Weren't you, Corey? Like I was blown away that this like lifestyle existed. You know what I mean? Like just the opulence of like being in this place, like it was pristine, dude, and it was amazing, and his red Chinese silk garb and just all of it. It was like the first chance I felt like I'm seeing. It's like we're breathing rare air here. You know what I mean? Like this is the inside of the uber successful, and it was such. I just remember as weird and as bizarre as it was. I wanted to live there for a while longer. I didn't want to make it my home, but I wanted to experience that. Because that's the great. What are we doing now? We're telling this fantastic story. That's what artists do. They collect stories and tell them. But no one would believe this story. It was one of my rare stories that I'm glad I have a friend there to tell the truth of what happened. And it was a truly bizarre time. But moving forward here to take you along the journey of Corey and I's relationship, after this kind of process of jumping into the world of documentary filmmaking, I finally decided that I wanted to meld together my passion for filmmaking and the paranormal, which is something we had talked about for a long time. We did this. We made Paranormal, which was a documentary about the Waverly Hills Sanatorium, which I had told you that I was going to go make this, and I was super stoked about it. At that time, you didn't really know much about my like paranormal past or anything.
Yeah, there were a few nights where we'd be drinking in your Marina Del Rey, and it would come up, and you always had a lot. But
did you know that I was that deep into it?
No.
Yeah, so you had no idea, right? Yeah. So when you first heard that I was making Paranormal and I played you some of it, did it make sense to you, or was it like,
it was definitely caught me by surprise, but it all started to make sense when I, once I saw it and everything too, and it had a lot of the elements of who you were and like your style and the music and all of that kind of stuff. So it was a little bit of a left turn, but it made sense.
For you.
Yeah.
So how this happens is one day I'm on the 405 and I get a phone call from Corey, and I hadn't talked to him in a while. And I had just decided I was going to part ways with my partner at that time on the Paranormal film. Because, if you remember this, Justin, we had a partnership. He was supposed to pay for X amount. I was only supposed to spend X amount and then do all the post. I did it on a handshake agreement, typical Hollywood handshake agreement. And then he's sniffing around that this thing could go somewhere. I'm getting serviced with contract after contract from him that are just dirty. And just, I'm not going to say his name because I didn't want to get into it, but it was just, I decided I'm done. I'm not going to do this with him. But I'm completely heartbroken because I love Paranormal. I think it's a great documentary. I think it could go somewhere. So I'm like, literally went down to the beach, had this long like prayer session, like, please God, like show me what am I supposed to do? I just made this film. I put everything into this. And I gotta walk away because I can't sign this contract and because this contract was like, I get 50% of everything you do the rest of your life type of shit. You know what I mean? So right after I had this kind of like come to Jesus meeting, I'm on the 405 and I get a call from Corey. And if you remember, you didn't even give me total details about what it was on the phone. You just said, I need you to come down here. You know, do you have Paranormal? Can you have your stuff? It's something really cool. You got to come down there. And I think right when I got there, you came out and you told me what it was. It was really quick, but you were just kind of like, you didn't fully tell me what it was.
Yeah.
You just said, hey, listen, this is Spielberg project.
Well, you know, video, I had just gone to Yahoo from MTV, and video was still very new, and it was right as Lloyd Braun had sort of had his year or two of experimenting with video at Yahoo and had just left, and there wasn't really a lot of eyes on Yahoo, but there was a few little around video at Yahoo, but there were a few projects that were sort of lingering, including this one that was sort of a pet project of the CEO at the time, Terry Semmel,
right.
and his close friend, Steven Spielberg.
Yeah.
And my boss at the time was sort of trying to help figure this thing out, and mentioned it to me on a whim while him and I were driving. We were actually driving back from Brett Ratner's house from a shoot we did there. And he mentions it to me on a whim. And, you know, to be honest, like I had left MTV to went to Yahoo, and I was only on a 4-month contract at Yahoo. And so I'm sort of fighting for my life to like, you know, what's the next thing that's going to keep
stay,
me at Yahoo or whatever.
right.
And I had no idea what that would be.
Right.
But, you know, he mentions this, and he literally said, it just needs someone to come in and own it who is, you know, really passionate about the paranormal, but is also a filmmaker. Like, literally just said it all. I was like, ding, ding, ding. Like, I know this dude. I got your guy.
Yeah.
And literally from that first meeting, I mean, I think, you know.
Oh, it happened fast.
Yeah, everyone knew
I
like, you were
landed
the guy.
and basically Corey said, I remember you said to me right before I went in, you didn't have much. It was kind of like a quick, let me try to prepare you before you go in meeting. And he was kind of like, look, this is a Spielberg project. You'll hear more about it. Like, are you know, like take it seriously type of thing. Like, this is the real deal. So I went in there, had the meeting. I thought it couldn't have gone better because the guy that was interviewing me, Drew, was stopping the meeting and bringing people in to like meet me and go like, and watch this and do this. And I could see he was amped and his buddies were amped. And I remember leaving and I called you afterwards and you're like, bro, like, I think it went really good. You know, from here, you know, Steven's got to kind of see your stuff, you know, we'll see how it goes. And I called Kurt, my manager, and I said, dude, I think I just booked a Spielberg gig. And he was like, what are you talking about? The next morning, I got a call from you at like 8 a.m. going, hey, dude, this is going down. Like, I guess they sent it right to him. He saw it, moved forward. And it was fast. Like 2 weeks later, the deal was done. And I'm going to bring up something that, again, Corey, to your credit, was something that made me think this is a fucking good guy. The deal was done, and it was almost 5 years to the day since I directed my first project ever, which was Index Cases, Why Dreams Bleed. Almost 5 years. So I was thinking, 5 years after I started directing, now I'm working for Spielberg directing. Mm-hmm. And what this was is a social media, there's going to be a social media, kind of like MySpace for the paranormal, with an original ghost hunting show. And they had basically said, we want, do paranormal, but make it bigger and better. In which they contracted me, and my next goal was to get Justin in there and to get Joey in there and to bring my team in there. So we do, and there's a producer there that I have to fight. His name, I don't want to say his name. He's probably not even a bad guy, but at the time we did not see eye to eye. And because I saw him like a couple months ago. He jogged right by me. I was like, God. But anyways, this producer, he fought the whole time to. I think what he was fighting for more than anything else is I think he saw that if the project was a big money project, and if it went south, it could crash things, and a lot of people could lose jobs. And if it was successful, a lot of people could gain jobs. And we were all fighting for the successful side. But that's a bigger story. But basically, I get Justin in, I get Joey in, and our job now is to go investigate these locations.
Well, I remember too, coming in, I had no idea. Because we've always done things in our own way, in our own fashion, and we got better at doing it the way we want to do it. I was not accustomed to the politics that play into all this. So when we got thrown into the middle of this, you start realizing that this isn't even about doing the job. A big portion of it is
I'm decently good at politics. I learned a lot from you, Corey, and through that process. Do you remember telling me they were basically giving Justin shit over and over again? And you basically said, listen, he's the dude that's not here. Like, this is going to happen. Do you remember that? Mm-hmm. Yeah, you basically just said, Justin's the guy that's in Iowa. Mm-hmm. So it's easy to blame him for shit. You know what I mean? Because you were there. When that all went down, Corey, and it was moving like that fast, right? Like, what was going through your mind on your side of it? And I'll get back to the point that I wanted to bring up. What were you thinking at that time? Holy shit, this is paying off? Or did you think it was going to crash any moment?
Honest answer?
Yeah, honest answer.
I was, it was like, this is 50-50. Like, it's going to go one way or the other, and I better have something else too. Yeah. So, I mean, and I was scrambling to get other shit up and running at Yahoo, and thank God I did. Not because this turned out bad, but just because what I did get up and running at Yahoo ended up really helping me in my career and everything. But only because it was... from day one, it was a huge risk. Yahoo hadn't even figured out really video yet.
Right.
And this was a monster of an idea that was ahead of its time and kind of too big. And
they were spending a ton of money.
Yeah. And, and we spent a lot. And but it was, it was really fun, It
was a ton of fun. And I remember we were playing cards at your house one night, and I didn't even know this. Corey was drunk. And we were kind of talking about the project, and he said something like, people were asking questions about it. They were asking about my role, and I was like, nah, it's fucking awesome. And Corey, I don't know if you remember this or not, but you were drunk, and you're like, yeah, it's fucking bullshit. He's making twice what I'm making right now. I didn't know that at that time. And I was like, whoa, because you know what they paid me. It was solid cheese for what that was. And I've always wanted to tell you that, like, in the real world, people give a shit about that. And that was a cool thing, that you were like, I got your back. Like, even if it means this, I got your back on this. Anyways, wrapping it up, and that is a, real jaunt down history lane to give you kind of an idea of Corey and I's relationship. And, really quickly before we get into what we're going to talk about with what's going on in the world and what has happened in the world, recent events. If I'm a young content creator in today's world and I meet you and I say, okay, listen, I want to work with you. Like, what does that mean? Like, what could I do to make that happen? Do I got to meet with brands that want to finance it? Or do you work with companies that finance it? Or how does it work today?
Yeah, I think the first step is, looking at the platform, or the platform's not the right word because it's a multi-platform, but looking at the brand that I'm ultimately, building projects for, producing projects for, and figuring out who the right people are for that brand and the right projects are for that brand. And currently right now I've got 3 different brands that I'm doing content for. And so it sort of starts at, you might be a good fit for this particular brand or whatnot. And then from there it's, like knowing what I'm currently doing, which is television-sized budgets and longer form and stuff. Like it's not a lot of like upstart producers or stuff, because we also are going right to series on things, and so there needs to be some trust in the third parties that we're working with the producers that we're working with. So unfortunately, I don't spend a lot of time working with like upstarts. It's more of established producers and people who I have had relationships with, who I have a lot of faith in, or just companies that have a track record where you can have a lot of faith, where we can accelerate the process of development.
Right.
We can, and then get right into a full series of a thing, which is a lot different from what Hollywood might traditionally be, which would be a longer development process of oh, that's a nice idea. Here's a little bit of money to make a script. And it's like, oh, the script is okay. Let's spend a year working on the script. We'll give you a little bit more money. And just kind of, and we're at, our foot is on the gas pedal much faster, where it's that's a good idea. Let's make a show, but we're going to need this production company and this producer and this piece of talent, and we're going to make that show. So
we're good. That makes total sense. Last question for you about the industry. If I'm, me, Chad Calek, young Chad Calek, 20 years old, shows up. I'm an independent artist. Is it harder or easier today for me to make it than it was 20 years ago?
So, great question. I mean, I think that it's easier in the sense that there's more you can do on your own. I think when we were starting out, you needed some way to get money to be able to make stuff. Some of these stories you've told today, it was, about like, the money that you had to find to raise and all that stuff to be able to make some of those things. And it's like, that doesn't exist now. You can make movies on your iPhone. You can go to, Kickstarter or GoFundMe, which obviously didn't exist back then or whatever. Right. And so, and then I think, not that it's easy to, just make content, because, you have to be creative and talented and all of those things. But I think it is easier with the technology to just make stuff. And if you are actually talented, you will start to find a following. And I think people at my level, when they see talent plus following, it's like, oh, we're 2/3 of the way there. Now we just need massive distribution or whatever. So, I think it's probably a little bit easier. I will say that what is a little, because of that, it's created a world where it's harder to stand out in the clutter.
It's more saturated, right?
Yeah. So because there's more people doing it, more platforms, all of that stuff. So I think it's probably easier to be able to make things, probably harder to be able to make things that have a cultural impact or significant impact.
But no matter what, the cream of the crop rises to the top. No matter what, still the same, right?
Yeah, you would like to think, right?
So if you had to say one thing for a younger content creator to work on, what would it be? What's the biggest frustration you would run into that you would say, you know what, you need to really work on this?
I think the big one would probably be, replication, like just replicating what they're seeing or whatever, and not really having their own vision and their own style and things like that. Like, I think people are so hungry to get into the space and get a career going that they just look at whatever is succeeding and try to do that. And that creates sort of less original voices, unfortunately, I think, so.
Right on.
And even on digital platforms, I think it's like, unfortunately, even the like influencers you're seeing now are replicating the influencer from a few years ago, and it's like you're sort of missing the point. Like, that person built up their 5 million subscribers on YouTube because no one had ever seen somebody do that before, and now you're just doing what they did. It's not the same,
right? Yeah. Right. Okay, well, cool. We're going to take a commercial break, everybody. Right when we come back, we're going to get into our bizarre news from around the world.
PARAMERICAN Radio will be right back after this commercial break with even more dope-ass shit.
In 1984, a Siberian geological group of scientists began drilling a well into the grounds of Russia's Kola Peninsula. After digging nearly 9 miles deep, the drill bit began to spin wildly out of control, as though it had entered a hollow region in the Earth's crust. After retrieving the bit, scientists lowered a temperature gauge and an audio recorder into the bottom of the well. Although the estimated temperature of gases in the ground at 9 miles were thought to be 120 degrees, scientists were shocked that the gauge returned a reading in excess of 2,000 degrees. but nothing could have prepared them for the sounds returned by the audio recorder. Stairway to Hell.
Chad Kalek's Stairway to Hell documentary, along with 15 additional Kalek documentaries, are all available on DVD right now at HHTelevision.com.
All right, we are back with more Pan-American Radio. Corey, one of the things that I'm going to talk about here now, it's something that happened a while ago, and it's in the news a lot now, is this whole hacker thing. We're hearing about maybe the Russians hacked the election, hacker this, hacker that, hacker this. Well, not too long ago, if we remember, there was this film, The Interview, with Seth Rogen and James Franco, and supposedly, and there's many conspiracy theories about this, Sony says North Korea hacked us because of this movie, and there was a lot of people that said, bullshit, you guys, this is a huge publicity stunt because the film's not that great, and if you pull this and you pull it from theaters and then you release it, everybody's going to go see it, which is kind of a brilliant idea. But then all these kind of stories came out of like this executive at Sony was talking shit about this person, this guy was talking shit about Kevin Hart, someone was talking shit about Angelina. When you heard that, what did you think? Is for the people that say, because companies do publicity stunts. This has happened throughout since the dawn of time, publicity stunts have been planned. Do you think, and this is just opinion, man, there's no wrong or right answer, do you think this was a publicity stunt, or that the North Korean government was literally going, hack Sony Pictures, hack Sony Pictures? Like, what did you think when you heard that?
If it was a publicity stunt, there would have not been leaked emails from high-ranking officials at that company.
Yeah, that would be bad.
Stuff where people lost their jobs. So that is, there's no way that it's a publicity stunt and unflattering shit of your CEO is coming out there. Like, it's just, that's not happening.
So
do I think it's North Korea? The idea of having a leader who is such an egomaniac that a film about him would drive him to do something like that sounds outrageous until we just recently elected one. I mean, couldn't you see Trump doing this to some other country? Like, absolutely, right? I mean, I'm sure
CIA's done it for.
It wouldn't surprise me if it wasn't. And here's why. I mean, think about how easy it is to have a vendetta against, Hollywood in general, let alone a specific theater, or a specific studio, or a specific person within a studio. Somebody who lost a job on a project, or put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into a project that ultimately didn't go. Whatever. I mean, this is a brutal industry, and there's points in all of us in this room's careers where we felt a vendetta against certain people or whatever, or companies or whatever. And so it wouldn't surprise me if it was just somebody who they pissed off, who were able to really get some sweet revenge. It also could be North Korea. It really could. I mean,
the thing is, if you look at Kim Jong-un, I can't even pronounce his name.
Kim Jong-il.
I could see him doing it.
This stuff has been going on forever, man. There are so many documented. They've even come out with it, how many times the CIA is thrown over. There's a recent interview with Hillary Clinton talking about that they shouldn't have let Palestine have elections unless we were sure on what the outcome was going to be, meaning we had to make sure that we were controlling it, right?
Yeah.
And then that's been going on forever. And that was even brought up. I was listening to this in an MSNBC interview when somebody was really, just cracking the whip on the whole Russian thing. And they go, well, isn't it true the CIA's been doing this for years? And they go, yes, but not to this level. And they're like, well, I mean, what does that mean, not to this level? And how could you verify any of that? The reality is whether or not it was the Russians or not, it's really ridiculous for us to sit there and point the finger like, this is insane that they're doing this. It's like, oh, come on. We've been doing this for years.
I don't think it's insane. Corey, when you saw this, did you think about your own email and emails you've sent?
Oh, 100%. I think everyone did, right? I mean,
who did I say?
in the industry, I think in the entertainment industry, but even I would say probably all wide, right? Like and I think a ton of good came out of it from that, because I think people realized like how brutal like you can be in email when you think no one's watching, and how that may not be the case, and I honestly I think about it every day when is it okay if this email would ever get out or whatever? So it's an interesting thing how that happened.
Did you go back through and clean out your emails and look for stuff to get rid of, or not?
No, I don't think I was that paranoid, but I think like going forward into this day, it's still like you ask yourself, would this somehow ruin me if it got out, sort of thing,
Right. Now, believe me, dude, I'm a very opinionated person. I certainly thought about it, of like, man, but thankfully everybody that I've like talked shit about, for the most part, I've done it to their face too. So they wouldn't be surprised, I guess, if they saw it. Yeah. But yeah, I thought about it. I mean, for sure. I just thought the whole thing was crazy, the way it all kind of played out. I couldn't believe, were you surprised that they pulled the film? I was surprised that they did.
What did they pull the film for?
They pulled it, the theatrical release.
For what reason? Because there
were threats, that there was going to be violence at the theaters.
Well, I think it was probably less a studio decision than it was the exhibitor's decision, where I think they have a lot of influence.
It was the exhibitor's
decision, right? And I think it's if they're not going to. See, if we're going to make our exhibitor partners, who, by the way, they need to stay afloat as companies, if they're not going to be happy with us putting this out, it's not worth it. Let's just find another way of distribution, So, and by the way, like, it forced a great hand, which is we need to start looking at movies coming, like big movies coming direct to digital platforms, because that's the future, and people are going to start doing it.
Next topic. The Telegraph, which is an online news source, reported on January 17th that ghost sightings worldwide are now the highest that they've been in 25 years. Now, there's all kinds of different thoughts as to why this could be. Look, as somebody who is currently working on a paranormal ghost-related show, I have a tendency to think it's just more pop culture now, so people talk about it more. But I don't know. What do you think, Corey? Like, why would ghost sightings be higher now than they've ever been?
I think I agree with you in the sense of, it's more, they're more in the zeitgeist. And I also think that maybe there's not necessarily more sightings, but just more communication around them, and more reportings or whatever, because of social media, like you said, and things like that. And I think people are less scared to share. I think like we're all from the Midwest, and when I go back and with my family and stuff, I still get a lot of people who are just like really paranoid. Like I have family who aren't on Facebook because they're worried that it's like going to be hacked, or that they're like going to be people that are revealing too much about themselves or whatever. And I think like slowly we're moving into a world where that kind of thinking is obsolete, and then the new generations are more and more and more about sharing. So I think it's there are probably people over the years who had some sort of paranormal experience who were afraid to share for one reason or another, like maybe they're super faithful or something like that, or it just didn't feel like the right thing to do, who are now into a world where everyone shares everything. I've been digitizing old home movies and stuff, and I'll like be going through a tape, and it's goes from like Christmas to summer vacation to like a birthday, whatever. And it was like you brought out the video camera for the sort of like big things, right? That's not the world we live in anymore. You have the video camera in your pocket every single day, all day. And I think like that element of it, just the fact that there are cameras out for everything. Has to play to the part that people are catching more evidence, because they have that camera with them all the time. I don't know, and the cameras become better and more sophisticated every year, every new iPhone, all that stuff. You would think that would play some part in it too.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I would think that it's just kind of like a MUFON. Across the board, all paranormal sightings are up. And I just think that's because the world's more connected, and it's just okay to share now. It's just okay to share. That's just is what it is. The third one is actually something I want to show you. A while ago, out of the blue, in China, there was a city that appeared in the clouds. Did you see this, Corey? Did you see this footage?
Yeah.
Okay, it's actually pretty crazy. I'll move back here and show you the original footage.
Local news and meteorological experts, who reported on the event, claim the phenomena was a fata morgana or mirage.
Yeah, a Fata Morgana is a massive mirage that could appear at different times in a really weird settings. I guess if you look across Lake Superior, at times you can see Chicago floating on the water. And it's just when certain things are right and light bends. And then there were people also came forward and then just said, hey, listen, that's not a fucking mirage, okay? That's something totally different and bizarre. So everyone kind of like dismissed it like, okay, well, maybe it was someone who did something with Photoshop. And then out of the blue, it just appeared again. This was 2 days ago.
You know, it doesn't seem to reflect the skyline of, you know what I mean? It's like, the skyline that we're seeing, the real skyline, doesn't have necessarily skyscrapers or the sort of tops of buildings that are in that, you know. It looks like a different city, right? It's not
strange.
You know, the thing is with so much, it's so hard. And again, it's subjective in the sense you can see it on video and that does up your interest more, but it would be a whole different story if you were literally there, standing there at the time, you know. I'm always skeptical just because I want to see it for myself rather than, you know. I mean, obviously it looks like a home video of somebody, but again, it's getting to the point where you can do a lot of stuff in After Effects and everything else. I don't know.
Well, here's another one. This is the same type of, this is what is a confirmed, you know, Fata Morgana.
And what you're seeing here is a mirage. We typically would not be able to see this from the Lake Michigan shore. We talked about this last night. Conditions are right on the lake that we're actually seeing a mirage of the Chicago skyline. Very interesting here. Here's what's happening. This is a good example of a superior mirage. So Joshua was on the Lake Michigan shore. He was looking towards the west.
Long story short, they're saying that, yeah, this event is happening and this is why people are seeing this. And people are arguing saying, no, I live here. I've never seen this before. And now this is happening all the time. Like, what is going on? It's all leading to more kind of, I don't want to say end of the world talk, but the bizarre things are coming. You know, the city in the sky is obviously impressive. That's a crazy looking event that's happening. You know, technology, you know, it'd be so easy, like I said, to pull like all of this stuff off. In your world, Corey, when you just see everything come through on the web, right? Because you deal with the web a lot. Do you believe, because you deal with so much shit, do you literally believe anything you see on the web anymore? I mean, like, there's fake news, there's fake events, fake that. Like, how much of what you see on the web do you actually believe?
You know, maybe it's like just, you know, the fact that I want to be entertained or something that I just, my mind immediately goes to, how is it real? You know? Like, I think... wow,
I didn't expect that. That's an interesting answer. Yeah, wow.
So... versus, you know, oh, there's no way this is real. You know, like, I want it to be real. You know, we need some more excitement.
My honest thought with all this stuff, I have a tendency to just not fucking believe anything that I see anymore. But there is that hope inside me that's just like, man, what if this was? What if this was? You know? And what would that mean? You know, I don't know what it would mean. I have no idea, but I know I've never seen cloud formations of buildings in my entire life. Have you ever seen a square cloud formation?
No. I mean, obviously something like that. No, I know what you're saying, Corey, about that. I've always put it in that context when it comes to the paranormal, because a lot of times as you get older, when you have kids and you're realizing these kids haven't seen this stuff before and it's all new to them and they're freaking out, and you're like thinking, oh, this is actually kind of cool watching you see this for the first time, because I've seen it a billion times and it's all... But then you have to catch yourself and realize you don't know everything, and there are things that we're constantly figuring out, you know? And you can almost bring them back, that childlike belief, you know, to be a little happier, a little bit more positive and upbeat, that it's not all coming to an end, that, you know, I don't know. It's that's what I've always found interesting about this. Whether it's, I mean, there's always the show aspect going on to anything anybody does. You have to make it entertaining. We're in the entertainment business, but it's also opening up that window of the possibility, you know, just, and getting people to step outside of their shell and research things a little bit on their own.
What do we think it is? I don't know. I have no idea what it is. Do I think it's real? My gut says no. My gut says no. It looks so fucking good, though. It does. It would be hard to fake. It looks too good to me. It just looks like so good. And the thing is, I don't know what it would be pointing to or what it would mean or what, there's no it just seems like someone figured out a really cool effect and did it. Like, that's just my
This
vibe,
would literally have to be a sir no face where you have to find the person who shot the footage and do it and try to investigate into the legitimacy of that person, like we did with Craig. That's what it would have to be like.
Okay, so there's your opinion. We have my opinion. Corey, what is it? Do you think it's real?
It's an alternate universe.
So you think it's real?
Yeah, I mean, I heard him say it on the tape, and it was like, I think alternate universes could 100% be real.
Well, we talk about this all the time. Like, string theorists will tell you that it's not only, multiple dimensions colliding and intersecting. It's not only, possible, it's probable that it's happening. That was one of my first thoughts, too, is maybe we're looking into that's the past or the future. That's what's coming. You know what I mean? And somehow we're seeing a blip of it, I have no idea. But anyways, with that, guys, we'll be right back after this commercial break with movie reviews, fan questions, and we will wrap it up with my good friend, producer, Corey Moss. When I was younger, I used to get in trouble from my teacher because in first grade and in kindergarten, you have the desk that's slant. And I used to start my pencil at the top of the desk and let it go, and I would stare at it really hard. And it would go brrrr and roll off the table. And I would do this over and over again during our PE / not study hall, but it was like private time they would give us in U.S. schools. And she finally told me I have to stop doing it because it just makes her nerve-wracked. She didn't like listening to the pencil over and over again. And she said, "What are you doing?" And I told her, I'm going to make the pencil go back up and off the table. And I'm going to do it with my mind. And it became something that I was like OCD with. Like, I couldn't stop doing it. And the crazy thing about it now is, it seems less crazy. I still obviously can't do it. But every ounce of me believed I could if I could just figure out how. The Wright brothers talked about that before they flew. They said, why have you dedicated your life to flying? And, you could kill yourself. And they said, because we've always known we can do it. They said, oh, you mean like mathematically figured it out? And they said, no, I've always known I can fly. I was meant to fly. And eventually they did. So maybe someday I'll move the pencil. Hey, what's up, everyone? Chad Calek here, director of A Blood Red Sky, coming to all of you with an incredible announcement about the A Blood Red Sky documentary, which the announcement goes like this. After spending nearly 3 years on the road, traveling to 3 different countries to host over 100 theatrical screening events, I'm proud to say that A Blood Red Sky will finally have a worldwide release date in the first quarter of 2017. So what company is releasing A Blood Red Sky? Well, here's the coolest part about this announcement. It's to let you all know that we are, AGH Television, just signed an agreement that gives us distribution to 45 countries around the world to release our films at the time of our choosing. How cool is that? So for the exact release date of A Blood Red Sky, which we'll be announcing very soon, keep checking the news section at aghtelevision.com, as well as all my social media pages. And to each and every one of you that supported A Blood Red Sky since day one, thank you, thank you, thank you. None of this would be possible without your support. Hey everybody, and welcome back to PARAMERICAN Radio with our movie reviews. I'm really excited about this specific movie review section because I get to do a movie review of a film that Corey directed. I mentioned earlier that Corey is also a filmmaker, and the name of the film is Dear Jack. Andrew McMahon. What's the name of his band again?
He was in a band in high school called Something Corporate.
Signed to Maverick Records. But this is just this tremendous story. And I guess I'm doing the review right now of the film, and I do urge you all to see it because it is incredible. Essentially, at the kind of height of his career as a young man, Andrew got cancer. And was it a specific type of cancer that he had, Corey?
Leukemia.
This film is literally his battle with leukemia. And when I say his battle, I mean, before it was cool to turn cameras on yourself, this guy was turning cameras on himself. I mean, to the point where he's having these horrific procedures done to him and these surgical things, and he's like got a camera right in his face, man, like the whole time. And, you know, he has this incredible relationship with this beautiful girl, and she's like watching him, you know, suffer this whole time and lose his hair. The scene where he cuts his hair off, and just, man, there's just some really, really heart-wrenching stuff where you just say, what would it be like? Like, think about this, okay? If we all died right now or got sick with cancer, most people go, man, that would really suck. No, think about it. Like, think about in your life. Think of all the things you're excited about. Your relationships, your business, your job, your friendships. And now you're just dying. You're on a clock. And the chances are you might not make it. And now with the little time that you may have left, you got to make yourself sick as shit to have a chance at maybe surviving, and you probably won't. So how do you want to spend those final days? To me, that's what this film really did a great job of touching on, is the pure fucking bravery of this dude to say, listen, I'm not dying. I'm not dying. So whatever the procedures are, you know, to save me, let's fucking get it going. Because I thought about it and I was like, man, if they gave me those types of numbers and said, you're probably not going to make it, I don't know that I would spend my remaining time getting sick. I would probably go, well, then I'm going to ride it till the wheels fall off. I mean, let's just get it going. And this film, you just see this Andrew fight, and there's just beautiful dichotomy in his music, because he's not only fighting to live, he's fighting to create. He's trying to create this music that it becomes literally the soundtrack of his fucking life. And that's what you see within this film, is that this music, this guy made this soundtrack of love and battle and faith and destiny. And there's these times where you see him after he's sick and he's like so skinny and bald, and he's playing on the piano, and you just want to bomb, get like teary-eyed now. It's just like, you know, and he's got these dudes like Tommy Lee, you know, from Motley Crue, like shows up and rocks drums on his album. And like all these guys are getting behind him, like, dude, I got you. Like, you can do this. You know what I mean? And, you know, the end of the story is, I mean, he miraculously, fucking miraculously, beats it. And gets his career back, gets his music back, begins playing shows and touring again. And in fact, at Corey's 40th birthday party coming up, Andrew's playing his birthday party for a private show, which I will not miss that. Just because I want to meet the guy and just be like, bro, Inspirato. Like, that's fucking amazing. So you guys out there, Corey, I thought you did a fantastic job. I really did. And I know that you kind of inherited that project and had to make all kinds of sense out of it. And I know you, and I certainly saw your personality. I saw your voice in it. I know the things that you like and the things that inspire you. I thought it was a hell of a debut for a directing gig.
It was you know, a blessing in a huge way for me. It was in that it was such a you know, artistically satisfying piece of work and project. And obviously, you know, when we put the film out, we toured it and specifically targeted, you know, theaters full of cancer survivors and things like that. And we worked a lot with his nonprofit, which he named the Dear Jack Foundation after the movie. And so, you know, to be able to see the, you know, how it impacted other people. And to be honest with you, I've had multiple friends who have had cancer since this movie's come out, and I've sent them a copy, and it's like, you know, it's worth fighting for, man. Like, check it out. So all of that stuff has been great. I mean, the downside is that, you know, I haven't made a movie since because it's like nothing has come even close to inspire me the way that has. It's like, okay, I'm fine. Like, if that's it for me, like if that's the only, and I don't think it will. I mean, I know I'll go back and do something again, and there's been a few things that have been close, but you know, ultimately, like when you do that as your first feature, it's hard. You know, it's not like you just jump into the next thing. And the other thing that's made me happy is that, you know, he has had a very honest, natural career trajectory, and you know, he was not an overnight sensation after the film came out. But with each record that he's put out, he's grown in popularity. I think he currently has the #1 song on Alt Nation right now. He just performed on Jimmy Kimmel the other night. He had a huge
hit last year with Cecilia and the Satellite. It's been the biggest hit he's ever had. And that song was really special to me because he wrote it about his daughter, whose name is Cecilia. And it was there's a part in the movie where he is talking about taking sperm before he goes through chemo, because chemo kills, I guess, the active sperm or something like that. And he says, and this is in the movie, I don't know if I'm ever going to want kids, but I guess I'll do this, And of course, as you find out, the movie is really a love story, and it's about, sort of how not just music, but also this woman saved his life.
Right.
And it's so neat to see, like, oh, we were there when he decided to do the one thing that allowed him to have this kid who's obviously touched his life, and then inspired him to write the song and spend the biggest song. So it's just, connecting the dots through that whole part of it is kind of a moving thing.
I think most people have dealt with someone in their life that has dealt with cancer, and even if you haven't, you're gonna love the film. It's an amazing film, just about survival, struggle, and just overcoming incredible odds. So, having said that, Corey, you're a guest, so you pick a film. You tell me what you've seen lately that you think I should see. You asked me if I saw what.
I've seen a lot of I try to see all the big award show movies. The last few years, I haven't really connected with a lot of the ones that seem to be connecting. But, there's been a few that I've seen in the last couple of weeks that I've really, really liked. One was Hidden Figures, which I took my wife and daughters to a few days ago. And that movie really, really moved me. If you haven't seen Hidden Figures yet, I highly recommend that. But the one that I had recommended, because I think you'll also really enjoy it, it's called Captain Fantastic. The premise is the film opens up with Viggo Mortensen and his family of 6 kids, who they live off the grid, and you immediately are just struck by how different that all of these kids are, and how different he is, and the kinds of things that he's doing as a parent, and you slowly come to find out why they're living off the grid and how they got there, and then also at the same time they're forced to sort of leave their habitat and go back into the world to sort of accomplish this one thing. And I really don't want to give anything away, so I won't. But and it's just a really unique, beautiful story. And I think what I took from it was, how quick we all are to judge everyone else in the decisions they make, especially when it comes to things like parenting and just lifestyle choices. How we really know, none of us really know what's going on in other people's lives, but how quick we are to judge them. And I think this is such a great film about how unique their story was in what they were going through, yet how crazy it looked to the outside world.
Right.
So anyway, it just was. It was definitely, and I'm bummed it wasn't nominated for Picture of the Year, but Viggo is nominated, and he probably won't win. I think Casey Affleck or Ryan Gosling will win, but he's fantastic, and it deserves it. I think he's a phenomenal actor.
You ran into Viggo, didn't you?
I did. I used to have a bulldog named Capone that bulldogs need constant maintenance and care. They're just purebred dogs have health issues. And I took Capone in to actually get a nail clipping done. And this massive, huge bloodhound came in. And I'm not even paying attention to the guy he is, and you hear that voice of his that's so identifiable. And he turns back around. He was going down, I believe he said Arkansas. He was going on a hunting trip. So he was getting his dog cleaned up for a hunting trip. Yeah, he's a super nice dude. Talked to me for a few minutes just about life, and that's about it. But so very cool, man. So if you haven't seen it, Corey's pick, Captain Fantastic, check it out. And with that, we're going to jump right into fan questions, which are these are basically questions that I assembled from our social media, from online, from our Facebook, Twitter. If you have questions that you want to ask us, you can just email me directly at AGHChad on Twitter or Chad Calek on Facebook. At the same time, Justin is at AGHJustin on Twitter. And your Facebook is what, Justin?
/Justin.Holstein1.
Justin.Holstein1 on Facebook. Send us any questions you want, and we will answer them. And we'll start right now. So Maya, just outside of Omaha, Nebraska. Actually, I know where this town is. It's a very small town. She asks, working with friends, something you advise or not? Whether you're friends or not, there are just some relationships that don't work. And if that doesn't work, it's not going to work. And that doesn't matter if you're friends or not.
Right.
I don't know. They always say, don't mix, business with friendship. You know what I mean? What do you think?
I know why they say that, but
Right.
I just think you need a certain capacity. I mean, a lot of times people don't want to look in the mirror and really judge their shortcomings, right? Holistically, at the end of the day, I think you just get to the point, man, where you have a much broader understanding of this is what I'm good at, this is what I'm not good at, and I've come to terms with that, at some point. I think everybody has to get to that point. You got to cut through the BS corporate stuff first, because you're never going to have a relationship like that with somebody in a corporate type setting,
It's a tough one, and I've had good and bad experiences. More good for sure. To me, there's a question of how hard it is to catch a break in this business, and so when someone does, I feel like it's sort of their duty to try to help out the people that they can help out.
We call it throwing the rope back over the fence.
Right. And so whether or not that's easy or difficult is, to me, not the point. The point is you just got to do it, and then figure it out. And you know what? If somebody, if a friend does throw over the rope and help you out, and then you end up being a little bit difficult, then that's on you, in my opinion, or whatever.
Well, nepotism has become a bad word, but in reality, trust is such a huge element. Whether it is, you were speaking earlier about the fact that you want to work with established producers, everything else, it's because you've gotten burnt, and you go, you know what, trust is the most imperative part of this. I need to know you can do this, and I don't need to worry about these details. Yeah. So, over the course of time, when you develop a trusting relationship with somebody, generally you become friends if you weren't before, So
I think it makes total sense. I think everybody works with friends to some degree. That's it. It's trust, period. Okay, so this is Ryan from Nashville says, Chad, last week you said you felt like it was important. Chad, last week you said you felt like it was important to move to Los Angeles to start a film career. With the world being as connected as it is, why is that so important? Well, let me just clear this up. I don't think you have to move to LA to start a film career. What I think is, it's look, if I want to play baseball, I'm going to go to the baseball diamond. This is where the creators are, the people that make what we watch. There's probably 20 people in this town that ultimately, from the top down, decide what gets disseminated out into the world. If we look at the owners of all these companies, there's obviously more people below, but this is where what the world listens to, entertains themselves with. It's created here. This is where it's at. So my point was just that, you want to do everything you can to go to the place where, that's happening. But no, you don't have to. But I can tell you this right now. For example, next week I'm going to do a shoot. I'm going to hire people. I'm going to scout people. I'm going to, go find producers. Do you want to be in an environment where your friends are all filmmakers and you could go, start working up the ladder through opportunity? Because I can tell you, I'm not going to hire anybody right now tomorrow for my shoot that lives in Ohio. I'm here, So I think it's important to move here and to take a shot at. Corey, obviously you're someone that's relocated. How important has it been to actually live here in Los Angeles to build the career that you wanted?
It's such a tricky one because, I do think that it has changed somewhat with technology and social media.
To a degree, sure.
Over the years. But, I do a lot of stuff with, social media stars, and they come from all over, and then they all move here.
Yeah. They still do, yeah.
So I still think there's only so far you can go on your own, and how far you can go on your own has gotten further. I will say that absolutely. You can become famous and have a huge following and live in the middle of wherever.
Right.
But I think then to go to the next level, whatever that is, and whatever entertainment career or whatever, moving here or New York becomes pretty important, I think.
I would say the hardest aspect, man, it's the same reason you go to college. When you're around other people who are aspiring to this level, it gives you that extra drive always.
That's a great
You're
point,
constantly making connections. You're in the middle of the Midwest. People do not think like this. You know what it was like trying to raise money in the Midwest to do a film? I mean, if you want to build a factory that makes cogs and it's, $5 a cog and we're going to profit $5, they get that. But the whole entertainment industry thing is like,
Yeah. All right, last question. Melinda from Minneapolis wants to know, how long are you going to make films about ghosts? It's funny that you asked that, Melinda, because I think I kind of know where this comes from, because after doing A Blood Red Sky, I said I was done. And you mentioned this earlier, how, you made Dear Jack, and you're waiting for that thing, So I was done after Blood Red Sky, and I kind of announced that. I went on my social media and said, I'm moving away from this. And then Sir No Face happens. And it was just one of those things where, we're all in Australia doing our last tour to kind of wrap up paranormal stuff. And, the story comes across of this guy that, Craig, who the government gets involved and, sanctions him to do this paranormal investigation. It was the greatest ghost story I'd ever heard, greatest footage I've heard. And I didn't know how to move on without making it. But it would take something that strong. And if you think about it, Melinda, answering your question here, that film, I firmly believe, proves the existence of ghosts. I've yet to have anybody tell me or show me that it doesn't, or tell me that it doesn't after seeing it. So with that being the bar reached, what else is there left to make? Another film about how ghosts may be real?
That's funny, because I heard Spielberg was interested in making a ghost movie with you, but I'll tell him you're not interested.
Like I was saying, if there's an opportunity out there to make a film, I'm the guy. You want to call me? Look, obviously, I had also stated that I was done with paranormal TV and stuff, and here I am making a paranormal TV show. It was a really cool opportunity. The thing you can never say never, I guess. But look, man, you've always been a great friend, a great person to work with. I'm sure in the future we will work more on things, and as time progresses, come back and see us again.
Absolutely.
Let us know what's going on with you, all right? Justin Holstein, say goodbye.
Yeah. I was going to say it in some interesting way, but I almost just said hola, which is hello. So goodbye.
Paramerican Radio, everybody. Peace.